I'll string on you with you feeling. I'll string on you with you.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome everyone to the 6th edition of the Trading Congress. The virtual trade is back. We host this every year, Black Friday week. This is our third day and the third stream of the third day. So fantastic. Congratulations for taking advantage of this huge opportunity so far. I know that there's a lot more to come. This particular edition is amazing, and me and our guest that we're going to introduce shortly, we've got a lot of alpha to share with you today. You can join us to access the very best of the education, resources, experts, including myself, to help you succeed in this market. So join us every day this week, and you don't want to miss a thing, and the best time is right now. So I'm going to introduce you now to Ashton of the Crypto Coin Show.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much.
Fantastic, mate. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and the Crypto Coin Show.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I started in crypto pretty early on, around 2014. Is my video? Okay, it's looking good. Yeah, started actually before Ethereum, around the dawn of Ethereum. And I don't know if I could say I'm one of the few, but an interesting entrance into crypto in that my father actually got me into it. He was the one, instead of, at the Thanksgiving table, you're telling your parents about Bitcoin, they're telling me about Bitcoin. And
oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So being in the .com rush, my dad was always interested in the newest technology, and he stumbled upon Bitcoin the moment Julian Assange decided to start accepting it. Because they shut down his PayPal. And at that moment, he knew it was going to be something big. And I think it was around 2012, 2013. And of course, I wish we could say that we sold our house and went all in at $1, which never happens when you have full conviction. But I do remember trading Ethereum when it came out. I was in finance class, actually. I have a background in finance and accounting. I was telling my teacher, hey, Ethereum's $2. And he's like, Facebook stock. And the next week I'd come back, Ethereum's $5. He's like, Facebook stock. And then I messaged him a year or two later. I was like, Ethereum's $800. He's like, okay, I give up. And since then I was hooked into the industry, and, being in finance and just realizing I didn't want to sit at a bank teller or, all of these other boring things that you have to grind your way up in traditional finance, combined with the love of technology. I just knew this was the place to be in early on. And that's why my father and me together actually started the Crypto Coin Show in 2014. And at that time, there was barely any market cap in the space. And we understood that the technology could be introduced into all of the different industries, and there would be tons of innovative advantages. And we wanted to have a voice for those companies in sharing how blockchain could revolutionize all of the industries. But it was definitely a grind in the first couple of years before the 2017 days, before all the capital came in. Everyone was, a lot of projects died, it didn't make it. We were blessed to have stuck through it. And here we are now, 10 years later, having done over 1,500 videos on our channel, interviews with some of the top projects. We're always trying to find the CEO to interview when they're just coming out. That is a future unicorn. But we've also had like John McAfee on the show, Roger Ver.
Oh wow! I bet that was interesting interview with John McAfee.
Definitely, I think he was hiding in the mountains of India when I talked to him, and he was. I was talking to him about McAfee decks, which didn't last long, but I know his legacy will last forever. So, and I think there's still a bit of a privacy narrative that rings true in what he said is evergreen. So we'll see how that plays out in the industry. Yeah, so, I try to still to this day, similar vision to the beginning, and finding great projects that have fundamentals that are here to actually innovate and change up traditional industries. And, usually the ones that have the highest levels of they have something against adding blockchain are the ones that should add it first, like governments and all these ones. But I don't think that's going to happen, but I know it will happen eventually, and we're already seeing it right now. So it's a very exciting time in the space.
Well, you see, I think many people would consider me a veteran in the space, and I've only been around since 2020. So I think they need to coin a new term for people like you who've been in since degen stage, I suppose you can, maybe, degen. I think maybe, degen level, isn't it really? Because, everything was still so new, so nascent, yet to be explored. I think even though Ethereum had come out, smart contracts were still in the early stage of discovery, weren't they? For me, it was actually COVID that really gave me the opportunity. Enforced lockdowns, twiddling your thumbs. What do you do? I'd heard, an old flatmate of mine was mining Bitcoin from home around 2011, 2012, and I remember when it hit the news for the first time at $100, and he sold everything. He sold everything, and he had thousands of Bitcoin. So I've not spoken to him for a while. I'd love to speak to him again to see how he feels about that. My missus, she's been trading it since 2013, so she's a proper degen like you. But for me, I used COVID. I think it was 10 months of just knuckling down, researching it, and then I think it was one day the light bulb just went off. I was asleep, and I woke up, the light bulb went off, and all of a sudden, then the floodgates opened, and I just understood it, and then it's just moved on from there since. So now I'm the due diligence and research lead of the Bird Nest, one of the biggest agencies in the space, providing education to the industry. So yeah, it's fantastic, absolutely love it. So let's get on to what we're going to talk about today. So, most of the agendas that have been in these streams so far this week have covered a wide range of areas, but this is the first that we're going to tap into the fundamentals properly, I feel. And we're going to be looking at, the narratives that we feel are highly bullish for this bull market cycle, I suppose you could call it, and also maybe some of our personal picks that we've identified for each narrative. So feel free to share your thoughts on the narratives first, and we can discuss that after.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I'm glad that there's some fundamentals. And, that's part of the reason why I resonated with the Bird Nest in the beginning. Just seeing Adrian being able to trade Bitcoin in spot, in just simple trades, not over trading, which I think a lot of people run into. He just sees, okay, Bitcoin has strength, and he gets the position in just based on the indicator, and, not even having to leverage or take high risk. Outperforms a lot of traders in the space. So, I think there's a lot of narratives. Some of them have more fundamentals underlying them than others. I think it's worthy noting for sure that that obviously the Bitcoin is the top sort of, I don't know if you can call it a narrative, but there's so many people that I feel like were sidelined when Bitcoin went up, because they're waiting for that 1 or 2 month period where the altcoins outperform Bitcoin, and it really takes a lot of effort and a lot of timing to make those plays and then switch back into Bitcoin or stables and make sure that you're up and you're not buying the top or buying the middle, and it would have been better off if you would have just bought Bitcoin. So that usually they say have a large percentage of your portfolio in Bitcoin because it's the greatest performing asset of all time. I think some people are smarter than they think they're smarter than the market, and they just say, I'm just going to buy all alts, and I will outperform Bitcoin. But if you look at the long-term charts from the last cycle, almost nothing has. Maybe one or two coins fluke by fluke. So it's definitely worth a mention that ensuring you have enough Bitcoin in your portfolio. And then secondly, what some people would call a dead coin because it hasn't moved or it's lagged. And I feel like that's pretty normal with these fundamental coins. They're hoping that, they did all the research. They see this one has the best fundamentals. I'm going to hold it. And meme coins are outperforming it and it's lagging. And then you switch out and all of a sudden that's the time when it goes is Ethereum, of course. Ethereum, it has the ETFs. It has the network effect. It has the 10 years of history. It's lagging, and there's a lot of people that hate on it because there's so many other blockchains. But I think it's almost 99% guaranteed that it's going to be going back to its all-time highs at least, which is not a 10x from here, but to go back to 4,800, I think that's a narrative that if you're looking for a safer play that's probably a little bit higher ROI than Bitcoin, that is it's a safe bet, and maybe you have to wait a little bit longer, but I think that's one that's more of a safe bet. And then on top of that, the Ethereum ecosystem in the other layer twos, which they say that 2022 and 3 was really the year that everyone started using layer twos for Ethereum because it got so easy with the amount of chains integrated into MetaMask and Ravi Wallet and things like that. But it's getting saturated, and are they really
saturated?
Are they really that different from each other? Where's the differentiator in the fundamental play in which L2 on Ethereum is going to outperform? And that's why, and I think a lot of them were, you could say, let's look at some L2s from a fundamental perspective. Oh, this one has a really high growth in TVL. For example, the Scroll Network, the ZK, the ones that actually had airdrop campaigns that were going for 1 or 2 years. And I think, you can look at it like that, but you have to take into those other factors that the TVL is overinflated because people actually are just putting their ether there, or their stables, to get an airdrop. And then once that token came out, how is that chain going to outperform the others now that people aren't just incentivized to store their ETH there because of an airdrop? How are those chains going to outperform something that has a larger network effect like Optimism and Arbitrum? And that's why I think that those L2s, in terms of the technology, they were the real innovators originally on Ethereum, and I think they will be they will rise with Ethereum when it does, but with a slight multiplier on them. So if you're looking
I
at
agree.
L2s,
I think Linear is going to be very interesting to watch personally. I think it's the most farmed out of all of them to date. Personally, and obviously, I think it's had the most successful fundraise. It's got a huge TVL. Again, as you said, there's a lot of airdrop farmers, and I include myself in that as well, which are providing capital into various DeFi protocols, lending and such, building up those LXP points and various strategies. But as Scrollers suffered with its user volume and TVL post airdrop, will Linear suffer the same? Then you've got others still to come, such as Polygon, the Zero Knowledge Polygon, and then you've got Op BNB and various others as well. And I agree. I think they are overly saturated. When it comes to L2s, which potentially stand out, I think Base is one of them. It's highly centralized with its sequences, of course, but you can't ignore the Coinbase connection. Coinbase is going to be one of the key, if not the key, on-ramping facilitators for crypto globally. And obviously Base Network is in a prime position to capitalize on that. that for me. And then Linear, when it comes to the technology side of things, I think they've been building slowly but surely. It'd be very interesting to see how people use it post airdrop. Once it goes live properly. But yeah, apart from that, I don't really see many others on the L2 side of things. Anyway, I've been very interested to see that actually a lot of L1s have been recently outperforming the L2s, and that makes sense for me. I mean, even within the EVMs, I've been following Telos very closely. I've been watching them for about 4 years. Excellent. And then you're looking at what's going on with Phantom, the migration to Sonic Labs, and I know that's something that you're also highly bullish on as well. But then I'm looking at also non-EVMs, layer ones that have been doing very well. Algorand, which in my opinion is the leader when it comes to real-world asset infrastructure. You can't ignore the ecosystem that they've built. For example, the next World Cup, I think in the USA in a couple of years' time, when you buy a match ticket, it's going to be on Algorand. So, and then you've got Quantas issuing digital euro from the Dutch Central Bank. Travelex, already their volume of Travelex alone outperforms all other EVM L2s. So, Algorand is something I'm highly bullish on as well for those reasons. But yeah, so I think the networks still have some strength. Both L1s and L2s for various ways. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform. But outside of the L1s and L2s, I really like the Cosmos ecosystem. I love the diversity and range that they have in there, like Injective with its DeFi ecosystem, a cash network as a deep in and real world asset play. You've got Osmosis, which is the centralized liquidity provider probably for the entire Cosmos ecosystem. What else have I got on top of it? Of course, infrastructure, Celestia. Probably one of the innovators when it comes to the modular architecture. So yeah, there's a lot on the Cosmos that I think haven't been given enough love. Fetch, of course, one of the partners of the upcoming ASI, the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. Leader in certainly going to be a leader, if not the leader, when it comes to AI development. So yeah, I have to give them some love as well. So outside of these, what we've already discussed, what other narratives do you identify so far?
Yeah, no, so many different projects to cover there. I just want to touch on a few that you mentioned in terms of the L2s. I think, when the coin hasn't come out and there's no chart to base it on, the valuation can be to the moon, right? We think it's, we're highly optimistic, and then something
speculative.
You're speculative, and I think ZK Sync had a really good airdrop and people were bullish on it. But then when Scroll came out and you're getting like $100 for a year's worth of work, you hate it. And then you see the chart crashing. But then even if it's, it's not always just fundamentals. There's always a little bit of technical analysis in there. And when you see the chart like Scroll, ZK and Linea goes down, if it goes down a lot, there's always a room for a bounce back. And I think that's going to happen regardless of, if they're going to be the fundamental chain that's around in 5 years from now. There's going to be those short-term plays. So it's still ones to watch, even though, never marry your bags unless it's Bitcoin, because a chain could be great for 5 years or 2 years, but for it to be 20 years, you got to take profits at some time, and the chances are very, very low. It's going to be around forever, and you're handing off these altcoins to your children through generations. So I think timing the market, as I said at the very beginning, that 2-month window, it still rings true for more fundamental plays, and that. Sure, they're great, but are they overvalued because of this 4-year cycles and all of the capital sort of moving through different parts? Yes, So with those other projects that you mentioned, the other ecosystems, I'm also bullish on the Injective Network and Cosmos. I think it has great fundamentals, but one thing to look at is, maybe it's the best piece of technology that's ever been developed, but it's so complex or it's so good that they didn't, it's built by developers, but they're not really marketers. And or the adoption is not that good. For example, on Injective, I think it has wonderful technology. The TVL is very low on what the ecosystem as a whole. I think
Yeah,
Injective is the
I was
strongest
surprised
there.
by it as well with the TVL, to be honest.
Yeah, I just did an interview on my show with Neptune Finance. They're a DEX and a yield platform on Injective, and it's not out yet, but they're hoping to really push the TVL on there. It's so small compared to what I think Injective is going to become, but I think that same with even Polkadot and these other ones. It's like the technology sounds so great, but the wallet wasn't as easy to use, or there's not a lot of DApps.
Interoperability issues.
Yeah, but from what I understand through the discussion with the Neptune guys, with Injective being on the Cosmos ecosystem, the inner blockchain communication protocol, you can easily move assets from Solana, from Ethereum onto there. The question is, will people do that, and why? Is it just because of higher APYs, or is there some great technology or some technological reason why Injective will actually grow in its fundamentals, or will it just pump through the cycle of all the different L1s and then people will forget about it? I think there's
I
definitely
think
something there.
Axelar will be massive for this when they launch their upcoming MDS, and it will be the first universal interoperability infrastructure and architecture. So I think that will uplift not just the entire Cosmos ecosystem. I think it'll facilitate hugely efficient capital flow between all ecosystems, and it will help all the genuine ones grow. All the ones with large user bases will benefit massively, and I think DeFi in particular will massively benefit. You'll get a lot more concentrated liquidity, which means higher yield opportunities. Higher yield opportunities, of course, always lead to higher TVL, which means more financial security, more development capital. So yeah, I think it plays like a snowball effect. It will take place. So I think Axelar's new MDS will be massively critical for that, which is it's something that I'm keeping a close eye on at AXL for an investment opportunity myself.
Yeah, I agree. I actually spoke to Sergey, the CEO, right when it was launching, and I saw sort of tick the boxes for fundamentals, strong team, good narrative in that there's a problem to be solved, and so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I mean, some of the other areas that everyone's talking about at the moment. We're looking at DeepIn, we're looking at real-world assets, we're looking at AI. I think we've already mentioned some of the projects that could fit into these narratives as well, because a lot of people forget as well is just because you have a project, it may have a main narrative, but it can fit into multiple pies as well. So feel free to share some of yours.
Yeah, I would love to dive into AI a little more, because I feel like that's more of a, compared to the other ones, a little bit more mature, at least that there's more projects that have a higher market cap. And, obviously there's a demand for AI computing resources, and there are some potential solutions for blockchain and decentralized networks to fill that demand. So, depending on how risk averse you want to go, if you want to go of the Bitcoin of AI, or if you want to go to the micro caps, you can dive into different projects. There's a few projects right now that are all sitting around 3 billion market cap, which is a fairly safe play at the moment. They're well established. You mentioned Fetch, the artificial super intelligence computer merge. I think that was huge news back in the Bitcoin all-time high in the spring of 24. It was almost a sell the news event, because there was a 2 to 3 week period where there was a lot of hype around, okay, these 3 projects are merging together. It's going to be amazing. And Fetch ran up to $3 something. And now we're seeing it at half of that. Does that mean that the fundamentals are half as good as they were in the spring? No, but that's why fundamentals is important, but also timing in the market. So
absolutely, and I think one of the key reasons why it's probably dropped down and it hasn't uplifted along with the rest of the market in the last couple of weeks is because AI had a run back in the spring, didn't it? So of course, people are now looking at other narratives, and I think when the market returns back to AI, that attention is reverted back to it, then AI projects such as FET and others that I like Hash AI, DEAI, and I know there's some others that you like as well, will have their day and outperform for a period of time for sure.
Yeah, and if you're going deeper into AI, I know there is a few more specific narratives in it. There's the decentralized AI agents, and then there's also the decentralized networks for compiling GPU resources, which I think is a little bit more mature than the AI agents one. Some of the AI agents, like this GOAT or some of these other ones, were sort of based off meme coins. I don't know about how much fundamentals there are, but first of all, in the GPU networks, I think there's quite a few projects that are around 300 mil market cap. They could have a lot more upside than the ones that are 3 billion. Looking at 10x to get to FET, and there's definitely a gap still in how can we properly use blockchain to fill the demand of AI and the GPU computation. So one of those ones that's the largest actually which has been around since last cycle, they were ahead of their time, was Akash network. It's sitting at around 1 billion right now. Greg Osuri had him on the show a few years ago, and I was like, okay, this was before ChatGPT came out, and there was not as much of a demand. So sometimes you're too early, but now they're doing well. It's more of a decentralized in that anybody can join in peer-to-peer. There's two other ones in Aether and IONet that I've also had on the show. All three of these projects, I've spoken to the founders for 30 minutes or more, and those are sitting around 300 mil market cap right now. And they're Aether is more focused on enterprise grade. They don't let everybody just grab your backup GPU and contribute to the network, but they do have enterprises that are providing resources to fill the GPU demand for AI. So I think some of those they have strong fundamentals. Whether their revenues contribute 1-to-1 for the price of the token is a very complex calculation that I don't know it will ring true at the end. But they are there in that I don't think they're going to die in the near future. So some of those, looking at more mid-tier rather than a 3 billion, there's a higher potential return on those.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's a couple of others like GPU rendering. I think is one of the most popular, probably when it comes to the deep in real world asset sector of this nature. So of course, Render was one of the first as well. It's been around for a while. And I really like Hash AI because it's not just about GPU rendering, it also offers CPU rendering, which I think potentially has a wider commercial application. And when you're looking at the GPU rendering sector within this narrative, something to keep an eye on is, I can't remember his name, the founder of NVIDIA. He mentioned that we're going to be facing a shortage of graphics cards in a not too distant future. And of course, as we all know from Bitcoin itself, when you have a limited supply but the demand is the same or increases, then so does the value. So that's why I'm highly bullish in that area as well, for sure. So apart from the ones that you mentioned, is there any other real world asset plays that you're quite keen on?
Yeah, I think for DePIN and real world assets, there are some strong fundamentals. I don't think there is as much as AI, and it's coming though. When we saw the news of BlackRock creating a fund for real world assets, that was like a big green light for people to start doing deeper research. I know there's one that I've been a part of, and it's been around since before real world assets was even a category. Is OM, which is Mantra DAO, which is now turned into Mantra Chain, right? And that goes back to the layer one narrative in that I think there's so much more potential in investing in a layer one network or like an operating system like Microsoft rather than investing in one application, because you're going to have that network effect of, hey, we can build other applications on top of this. And Mantra is like probably it's the highest returning ROI RWA asset so far. I think it was like a cent in the beginning of the year, or 2 cents, and then now, and last month it was like $1, and then it jumped up to like $4. So you're looking like 400x or something crazy.
It's exploded at the market capitalization rankings on CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, and now it's 3 to 4 billion market cap, which it's great if you were in at the beginning, but to go all in right now, you've probably missed a majority of that 400x. I think it could still continue to run as things, but is it overinflated? I don't know. You'd have to really do research into, okay, as an operating system, is there other apps on this? Is there actually real estate and other real world assets being tokenized? And how much does that contribute to the play? I dabbled in a few other RWA projects in the past, and there's been a little bit about real estate, but you think it has fundamentals, but it's never really come to fruition. So I don't dabble in it too much. I think that was a great pick.
I think real estate will take a few years for it to truly show its worth, because they require a lot of capital up front to be able to build up that portfolio of real estate, and then of course you have to make sure that they're getting in the right people to lease those properties and generate that revenue, and that's something that takes time. So that's probably more of a long-term play. But do you want to do a long-term play at the moment when we're not sure what's going to happen in 12 months time? So there are some plays, like of course you've already mentioned Bitcoin, that I think have long legs for the long term. I've already mentioned Algorand, and I have firm conviction that Algorand be one of those as well. I hope it reaches its previous all-time high. We'll see. But yeah, the ecosystem that they built is absolutely sensational. But I think there's something that we've missed out is Peak Network. I love the ecosystem that they've built so far. I love how they took the time to develop an ecosystem, so they had a genuine value offering into the market before they deployed. I think that was very smart of them, because too often what we'll see is you'll have a great white paper, you'll have a great website, you'll have tokenomic idea, people will ape in on the promise through pure speculation, and then nothing happens, nothing gets built, or it doesn't get built quick enough, something takes place. So Peak Network, I think, did it the right way. It took a bit of time, but they got there, and I think we're gonna, it's something that I've personally invested in, so I think we're gonna see some positive returns on that as well. And I think there's a couple of other areas that we haven't really discussed so far. One is you're looking at traditional financial systems. The Bird Nest have a partner called Credify. I'm highly bullish on, where you can provide collateral upfront without any credit checks to borrow. So for example, if they form a partnership with one of these real estate companies, and you receive an NFT which represents the collateral that you own, you can provide it as collateral into the protocol, and you receive capital to reinvest elsewhere. And another one I'm highly bullish on, and this is probably more of a bear market play rather than a bull market play, but it's called Carbify. It's a micro cap, so it's highly speculative at the moment, but what they offer is carbon debits. Now, carbon debits are different to carbon credits. Carbon credits are where you're looking to buy something to offset carbon emissions, but nothing's been done yet. It's the promise that they will deliver. Carbon debits is the other way around. So they're planting trees in Central Africa and in the Amazon, and these have been growing for at least 1 year already, and it's ratified by the United Nations Climate Council, I think it's called. So it's legit, it's operating, it's running. And what I like about it, it's not correlated. The genuine value with Carbify is not correlated to blockchain or traditional financial markets. The true value is extracted when it comes to the price of carbon in European markets. So as we know, the EU have legislation where they're requiring all mid to large companies to be carbon neutral by, I think, 2050. So the demand for carbon is going to increase when it comes to carbon offsetting strategies. So the price of carbon as a result will increase, and Carbify are an early mover in that. And again, this is a very long-term play, a bear market strategy for me probably, but something worth keeping an eye on. I thought it was worth a mention.
Yeah, no, I agree, Chris, and I want to touch on that regen as well as peak and deepen after. But on the regen finance, I have high hopes, and I wish that some regenerative finance plays could really break into a narrative, where it would make a positive impact on the world if regenerative projects and carbon credits could break through outside of Web3, and we could find a way to help save the planet more. I first remember seeing the narrative in like regen.finance. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago now. I had Gregory on my show, and it was like they had partnered with Microsoft. They had, they pre-sold 50 million in carbon credits. And it's like, but then it's just sort of like crickets, and I was in Tulum as one of the speakers of the Tulum Crypto Club for a few years. And that area, it's a lot of expats, but also a lot of like conscious people. And they really focused a lot of efforts on doing regenerative finance and refi instead of DeFi. And but there's just not a lot of capital that was going into it. People are trying to make something happen with scraps, and this 5% of the corporations that control the world that are actually producing the most carbon, they are the ones that need to go on board. And sure, Microsoft may have pre-bought some carbon credits, but will they actually switch over to that as the majority of their systems, or will these companies just pay, they dump their garbage, so they just pay the fine, and it's just cheaper than actually adopting a system?
Yeah, they do.
Works.
They often just pay the fine, don't they? They do, yeah. I think it'll take stronger legislation. Now, stronger legislation is not something that really anybody wants to see too much, but sometimes, when you've given these companies an opportunity to do things themselves, it can take a kick up the butt before things start to get moving. So we'll see how that space happens. And I think regen finance will have its time, but maybe that time isn't yet, because we got AI coming through, real world assets finally getting tokenized. Memes are having their day right now. And to make it clear to everybody, meme is the main narrative, of course. And there's a lot of our, people who are making money, but there's so many more people who are losing money. So it's not something I personally touch. I've no interest in it. I think where memes will have, when the meme cycle matures, is where meme will be used as part of a fundamental narrative, where you're looking to leverage a community to build a user base. I think Floki has been exceptional in that. They started out as a meme, they built the fundamentals after. Dogecoin obviously built a layer 1 chain, which I'm not sure how many people actually use. And then, you've got Shiba Inu. Again, they built a DeFi ecosystem. So, you've got some examples in the past. So there is a path to success. And we'll see if that takes place with some of these memes coming through. Now, over 99% of them are absolute garbage. So I'm sticking to what I know rather than trying to ape in and follow in the crowd.
It's we can't go through the discussion without mentioning memes, because it's just been the strongest narrative. And if you're a fundamentalist, you're like looking here and there. Maybe there's some fundamentals I can latch onto in making a rational decision to invest in some of them. And of course, Dogecoin. I think if you're looking at fundamentals, Dogecoin is the strongest of them all, and we've seen that in the past month with the run up. And it's the longest chain. Some argue that the chain, is better than Ethereum for speed and cost. And there is if you're into speculating in microcaps, that Dogecoin, it has its own ecosystem of tokens that are on top of it, Doginals and these kinds of things. So, but I think Doge will continue for sure. The moon mission to $1, that's been the meme for many years. I have conviction that it will come true. We're 2 days of a pump away from previous all-time high of 70 cents. It can move quickly when it starts moving. The fact that it was already
history
46 cents is like you're practically there from 9
absolutely
cents.
Absolutely, it
right?
takes as you said, 1 or 2 days, and
Yeah.
it'll get to that point. It's going to be interesting to see where the price discovery will go to beyond 70 cents. I mean, beat 70 cents, probably will beat $1 at some point. I think it's going to hit a bit of resistance there from a technical point of view. But yeah, once it goes beyond that, who knows where it can go? As you mentioned, Doge, is a success story when it comes to memes. They built the utility and the fundamentals later, but they do have a very strong and highly loyal user base, which is the whole point. I think where memes once they memes mature, that is how it will be impactful in the future. So we'll see what happens there. But we're going to have to, unfortunately, guys, there's so much more that me and Ashton can speak about. And me and Ashton communicated beforehand over the last couple of days, and we haven't concluded everything that we wanted to talk about either. So it's a shame, but time is time. So just like to remind everybody, that we've got a few days left of this annual trading congress. You'll see the link for our Discord. It's free to join. Join all the thousands of others who've joined, and you'll check out our alpha. We've got a huge team, and we're getting nothing but positive feedback so far. So join us, check us out. We've got more streams coming up later today, and we've got streams going on until Saturday. So please hit that link, join up. It's free. There's nothing hidden. There's no automated renewal where you have to pay. Join up, check it out, and if you're not sure about it, leave us feedback and you can leave. But the whole purpose of this is to provide you guidance, education, expert opinion, and help you develop and reach your potential, and make sure that, as well as us, you can develop yourself financially, where you can make your own decisions completely free. So, Ashton, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we manage to get to do this again in the near future, because there's so much more we can talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you to the Bird Nest.
Yeah.
I'm a loyal bird. And I love that you guys have the diversity in there of there's different things based on your beliefs. If you're just going with Burbs Bitcoin, or if you're going with some meme coins or some scalping plays, they have everything. And yeah, I love the indicator as well. So thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care, everyone.